Hello, and welcome again to another Something Something Chat Show where Tom Jr. Jackson presents After the Movie Review, episode number 45. I am always your host and goof emeritus, Tom Jr. Jackson. Welcome to the show. As always, please remember to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That'd be most pleasantful if you did. And as always, please check down below in the description box for how to check out the Burnett work, Positive Fandom, After the Sequels, and of course, Ray Lytle's Morning Disaster. Is that it? Yes. So without further ado, let's get in with the best darn show on the internet. Shot you. So we're going to talk about RoboCop, made in 1987. Now, if you're like me and you know the 1980s, you'll know that it was full of different genre type of movies. You had your police-oriented films, such as Police Academy, Colors, Beverly Hills Cop, Stakeout, 48 Hours, and so many more. But one film sticks out, and that would be, I should say that sticks, but stands out, and that would be a film that came out in 1987, and that is Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop. This film is a dystopic film. It takes place in a crime-filled Detroit. You have a cop, straight by the book cop, played by Peter Weller. And he plays a cop named Murphy. And one day he is out on his assignment. He chases some crooks down, or some bad guys down, and he is terminally wounded and brought back to life. As a powerful cyborg cop who basically one night while re-energizing or charging up, he's haunted by flickering memories of his past life. So you basically have his organs, his brain inserted into this cyborg or robot, and his face implanted on the body. And he has these flashbacks. And he remembers his old life and decides he's going to find the people that did what they did to him. This film also stars Nancy Allen, Ronnie Cox, Kurtwood Smith, Miguel Ferreira, Ray Wise, and Paul McCrane. And watching this movie, you could probably say it has some Christ-like elements to it, where you have the good guy who is brought down, killed, and then brought back to life. This film is meant to be like it's three things. It's an action comedy. It's an action movie. It's a comedy. It's a black comedy satire film that is a statement of, I want to say, politics and law and order at that time. And I think some of the issues in the film could be projected into where we're living now, some 35, 35 years later, something like that. And it's really interesting. You might even call it a superhero movie before you had those big superhero movies. So I mean, you had Superman, but RoboCop was kind of a superhero in a way. RoboCop was so popular. There was a toy line. Um, excuse me, a toy line from it. It was a cartoon from it, and this was back in the time in the '80s where a lot of movies were getting or TV shows were getting animated shows based on them. You had RoboCop, you had Police Academy at one point, you had Rambo, which by the way, with Rambo on that front, Stallone didn't like that. He he said this is not for kids. Why is there a toy line? Why is there a cartoon based on this movie? It's not really made for kids, and why is that? But there's nothing he could do about it at the time. RoboCop was the same way. There was a RoboCop cartoon. As a matter of fact, with RoboCop, the screenplay was offered to and rejected by virtually every big director in Hollywood before Paul Verhoeven got to it, and he read the first few pages and he threw it away. And he was convinced it was just a dumb action movie. It wasn't going to do well, and that it really wasn't worth this time until his wife Martine read it, and she read it all the way through, and she convinced him that the story was layered with many satirical and allegorical elements, which brought Paul Verhoeven to make the film, of course. And you know, it's funny because it takes place in Detroit, and at one point, you know, you have your new Detroit that they want to build, but they're worried about the old Detroit and all um, the crime in old Detroit, and they want to get rid of all the criminals. So they create this robot that looks like something out of Robotech, really. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna use these guys, and these robots are gonna take care of the bad guys no matter what. They'll get rid of them, and we won't have any problems. So out goes Murphy, and he ends up getting killed. And they figured, well, we'll just bring him back. So in some ways, RoboCop is almost a Frankenstein story in a way. It's very weird for me to say that, but it really is like a Frankenstein-esque story, except no, well, no. Yeah, it is like a Frankenstein type story, I believe. Um, it's its violence in the film is supposed to be satirical. It's supposed to be that of hyper violent in a way. Not as violent as we would see it today, but it was violent for those times. As well as it's almost like a time capsule because it's one of those films that was still using the practical effects. So the Robotech type robot was made by Phil Tippett, who did the if you've seen Star Wars, and who hasn't, the little chess table type thing with the little animal things that wrestle each other. He did that. Um, I remember seeing this film as a kid, and I really enjoyed it. And I now own it on Blu-ray from Arrow Video, and that video, I mean, that set is really nice. From two commentaries, some behind the scene things, a couple documentaries. It's really, really nice. And Arrow Video really restores a movie well, and they've done it well. I believe at one point it was Criterion who had restored it, but then Arrow Video got the rights to do it again and do it in a better way. And I have the director's cut. And the director's cut has a scene where they're in the boardroom and there is a guy where the Robotech type cop robot comes out and is they're trying to demonstrate how it's going to uh, arrest a person. And they tell the robot tells the guy, look, throw your gun down or I will shoot you. Have to the count of 5 or something. And the scene that they put in that they had to cut out from the original film was um, this machine of it malfunctions after the guy puts the gun down, and the robot goes after the guy and then shoots him, violently shoots him, and blows his stomach open, his chest open and stuff. And at the time, it was very, very violent for that time period. Now it's like, oh, okay, I've, I've, I've seen worse, but it fits the movie. Um, let's see here. I'm looking at my notes. So the hands of RoboCop. So let's talk about Peter Weller's costume as RoboCop. Because it was hard for him to get in and out of the car with that suit, he would only wear, from here, the suit up. So getting into the car, he would wear that, and he wouldn't wear the bottom. There's a scene where he's going into a club and walking down the stairs, but he has to keep looking forward, but going down. He could only wear the top half of the suit, not the bottom, because it was hard to walk in. But so he wouldn't fall. He had to rehearse it like 3 or 4 times. Um, the hands of RoboCop were made of foam rubber. They would throw the keys to him. The keys would bounce off his hand, and they had to do about 50 takes, an entire day's worth of filming just to finally get that shot right. Um, when you're seeing Murphy, the Peter Weller character, being wheeled into the hospital, the trauma team that's bringing him in, that's a real trauma team that's in it. And one of the fun things, I shouldn't say fun things, one of the most ironic things about the movie is that in 2013, the city of Detroit finally went bankrupt. I shouldn't say it like that, but they went bankrupt in 2013. The movie takes place, I believe, in 1991 or 97, but the movie was released in 1987. So it's very interesting to see that it takes place like 10 or 11 years after the fact, when the movie was released. One of the writers, Edward Neumeyer, in 2013 was reflecting on the film, and how the script is starting to play into reality. And he said, we are now living in the world that he was proposing in RoboCop, where the police stations are not the police stations. They are now, they're still police stations, but they're owned by a corporation. So now big corporate, it's now where it says big corporation will take care of us and how they want it. And that's kind of true. Where big corporations are taking over little corporations and becoming this big conglomerate of companies. And the movie itself at that point had not projected that, predicted that happening, and we are now living in those times where that's happening. Yeah. For Hogan credits James Cameron's The Terminator, because that was just a small movie that was made on a small budget, and the purpose of Orion Pictures was the company that made RoboCop. It was founded with the purpose of making quality movies instead of profitable blockbusters. And the shortage of money forced them to produce the Terminator, which was a low budget production. And maybe it might make a quick profit, but since this was not the type of the movie they were associated with, the studio did very little marketing for the film, and Terminator was one of those word of mouth movies. So it became an unexpected hit. When it became that hit, the studio was convinced, science fiction, that can be profitable. So RoboCop was quickly greenlit. Verhoeven was asked to direct as he just made Flesh and Blood in '85 for Orion. He adopted the fast editing pace from the Terminator. Contrary to that movie, the studio announced a wide marketing campaign. So RoboCop got a big wide marketing campaign, whereas Terminator didn't at the time, which is very interesting. I mean, you'd think now, oh yeah, the original Terminator is such a blockbuster of a movie. It's so iconic. But at the time, it was just really this small little movie that just happened to become something big, it became a big thing. So as you may or may not know, Ray Wise explained that he and Kurtwood Smith. If you don't know who Kurtwood Smith is, Kurtwood Smith is the father from that '70s show, Red Foreman. On the DVD, Ray Wise explained that him and Kurtwood Smith ended up being close to an explosion, causing pieces of glass to be embedded in Ray's face, and he received additional stunt pay for the mishap per the studio. So he joked that he devised ways where he would be as close to explosions as possible to gain extra money, which is funny, because you get stunt pay for that, I guess. Let's see here. So I should say that I do know that the scene where Murphy gets murdered had to be edited so many times because it kept getting an X rating because of that. They're just different scenes that had to be cut out because they were so violent. And when they did the director's cut, they restored it, which that was on home media. So that's when it came out. I think either on Criterion or Arrow Video. One of the two originally came up with the director's cut. So yeah, RoboCop was created or written by Edward Neumeier, and he came up with the idea for RoboCop after he had helped out on Blade Runner, which is about a cop hunting synthetic humans in the future. So intrigued by that, Newman turned the scenario around into a future where a cop looking like a robot would be hunting human criminals. So he took that in a way. RoboCop is like Blade Runner, only I want to say reversed. You know, they reversed that process of that. Um, let's see what else here. Yeah, so it was submitted to the Motion Picture Association 12 times before securing the R rating. So RoboCop was an R-rated movie that ended up with toys, a comic book, and a cartoon show. You wouldn't see that today. I mean, you don't see the adventures of Mommy Dearest and her wire hangers, do you? No, you don't. Um, Former President Richard Nixon was hired to promote the home video release for $25,000. He donated the money to the American Boys Club. That I did not know. That former President Nixon, I should say, former President Richard Nixon was hired to promote, and the bad guy, Dick Jones, played by Ronnie Cox, you could say in a way was sort of like a Nixon type character in the film. Um, RoboCop, the script was rejected by just about every major movie studio. Since it was conceived in the early 80s, Orion Pictures took the chance, and RoboCop's success continued on with two follow-up sequels to the movie, two cartoon series, a television series, several comic book series, and a made-for-TV series of 4 movie-length episodes. And then finally in 2014, there was a reboot film reimagining his origins, and RoboCop even spawned a fan-made parody film. In 2018, RoboCop Returns was announced to be a sequel to the first film, ignoring the existence of to the other stories. Yeah. The RoboCop franchise includes numerous video game adaptations. It garnered over $1 billion in children and adult toy lines, collector's statues, which are still being released to this date. So, it years later, RoboCop is now out there, and I think it's out there now because it has been on like HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, the movie channel. So anybody could watch it at any time, and it gained that popularity. And that popularity turned it to the point where um, children were watching it, and kids wanted to be RoboCop for Halloween, and they wanted a toy. And I think I may have had a RoboCop toy when I was a kid. I can't remember. So 87, I was 11, maybe 12. Yeah, about maybe 11 or 12 when it came out. Um, so yeah, even though the movie was set in Detroit, it was filmed in Dallas, Texas, around and in Dallas, Texas. 22 locations were used. Only one actual location show of the Motor City itself is in the opening, and that was stock footage. So yeah, it's very, it's one of those movies that I had to say I like, because I just watched it again, not last night, but the night before. Just out of the blue, I just felt like watching it. And it still holds up to this day. And the action is good, the timing is good, it's a tightly made movie. And it's a film that is classic. And I like the original RoboCop from '87 better than the new version. Even though I'm a huge fan of Michael Keaton, who's in a new version, don't get me wrong. I just like the original version. I'm old school like that, I guess you would say. So yeah, definitely, it's a great film. There were some improvised lines, like where Kurtwood Smith is brought into his character has been arrested and he's brought into the precinct, and he improvises the line, "Just give me my effing phone call." You know, it one of the taglines for the film was going to be, "He's like Dirty Harry, but with ball bearings," and they were considering that as the tagline. He's like Dirty Harry with ball bearings, but it was ultimately dropped, fearing that Warner Brothers or Clint Eastwood would sue Orion Pictures and the producers and the directors and all that because of that. Um, yeah, so Ray Wise, who's in this film, and he's a bit part, but he's great. Like he is in everything. He says that he kept his costume from RoboCop. He also keeps it wrapped in plastic, just like Laura Palmer. And if you know what that means, folks, you know what that means. Because, Ray Wise was in um, Twin Peaks. So he likes to say he keeps the costume from RoboCop, his costume, wrapped in plastic, just like Laura Palmer, which is hilarious. Um, Peter Weller turned down a role in King Kong Lives, which was made in 1986, to star in this film. I think I can't remember who was in King Kong Lives. I mean, I remember the movie coming out. I don't even think I've even seen it. I mean, I remember it, but I don't remember actually watching it. So yeah, for a while there, Michael Ironside was considered for the role of RoboCop. He had to give up on the idea when they realized the actor would have to have a much smaller frame to fit inside the costume. And Michael Ironside reportedly wanted to rewrite of the script where RoboCop had a harem. Yeah, where he had a harem. So, folks, I want to say that's it for now. We're going for almost a half hour. That's pretty good for a review. I want to thank you all for watching. As always, check out RoboCop. If you are a fan, rewatch it. If you've never seen the original RoboCop from 1987, do yourself a favor and watch it. Check it out. And as always, folks, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Check out the other channels, like, comment, subscribe to their channels as well. And as always, this has been After the Movie Review, episode 45. The movie title is RoboCop 1987. Check it out, and we will see you next time. And until then, folks, please remember, we are all goof people. Thank you for watching.